Oops, sorry. Something's wrong with our bell. Okay, we like to start out each class with our awakening bell, it's called, which is a sound frequency, just to remind the essence of ourself that has not been awakened into consciousness, but it remains in us as a pure potential. So that's what this frequency is. We're through this frequency saying, wake up and come out of your state of inactivity and become awake. So we're going to do this 3 times. So you that are here this morning and you that are joining us through streaming and later, we also want you to experience the vibration of the awakening bell. And as you're aware that before I sounded the bell, I sounded it from the place of silence. But when I disrupted the silence with vibration, then you heard a sound. And that was silence interpreting itself as sound through vibration. But if you noticed, it kept wanting to diminish back from where it came from, back into the silence that it came from. So it's in the silence that really is the face of God. That's the face of God. The face of God is not looking at yourself in a mirror as a human being, but the true face of God is the undescribable, undefinable, non-local that we call essence, or a field of potential impossibility. Class, yes, we are still on Chakra 1. Surprise. Now let me explain why. The first chakra is the foundation of all the other chakras. If we don't lay a good foundation and truly understand the meaning of the first chakra, and as we climb the ladder, so to speak, it's not going to mean as much to us. So I wanted to stay on this until we really feel that we have accomplished that. I know I've read this before, but I'd like to start out today with 2 quotes, one from Alice Bailey in Esoteric Healing, and another from David Tinsley in Radionics and the Subtle Anatomy of Man. Alice Bailey writes, "The new medical science will be outstandingly built upon the science of chakra centers. And upon this knowledge, all diagnosis and possible cure will be based." Now, Alice Bailey was truly a visionary. The reason I quoted her in my book, Fork in the Road, was because of her tremendous ability to look ahead almost many decades. I don't know how long it was, but decades into the future, and saw how that the structural changes of humanity will be accomplished through training of sound therapists. That's what she said. It's going to be done through trained sound practitioners. That's going to change things all the way to the structural cellular level. And here again, she's telling us that she sees a time that the medical field will so transform itself that it will diagnose differently. And that's been a vision of Some Energetics for so long, is we would love to see more people trained in doctor's offices. I recently was at a doctor and was put in one of those rooms, you know what I mean, those cold rooms where there's not even a magazine to look at. They at least could put a magazine for me to look at. They don't even do that anymore. And I sat there and waited and waited and waited. And I thought, what a tremendous advantage this would have been to have someone trained to come in and use some sound and tuning forks on me and get me all prepared and opened up, that when the doctor comes in, the doctor would step right into my energy field and begin to diagnose me from an energetic level. That may not be as far away as we think, because this whole transformational, transitional, transactional thing that we've been talking about for so long, for years, is definitely on steroids. It's happening so fast. And I have to be thankful for things that have been a challenge to do that, such as this virus and what it has done to slow us down and to get our attention. That's really what it is. It has gotten our attention. And I hope that as this changes, that we will come out of it and not just revert back where we were, but we'll come out with some experience, some knowledge, some understanding that we did not have as we went through this. So David Tinsley says in his book, Radionics and Subtle Anatomy of Man, that one must recognize that the chakras are the source of power that determines the physical, mental, and emotional makeup of the individual. And as such, they are the key to well-being. I like this. Well-being means don't fix me when I'm broken, or heal me when I'm sick, or give me a medicine when I need it. It means staying tuned, staying in a well-being state. You know, I know a lot of us in this generation and this age thing are starting to deal with all kinds of issues that most likely, I'm saying always, but most likely we would not be dealing with if we had taken care of it in the earlier years. Having that checkup every year, getting your teeth cleaned every year. I talk to people sometimes and they say, no, I don't go get my teeth cleaned all the time. But there's things now that we have sown, and now shall we reap. And of course, as I've said to you, this is the great challenge of Soul Energetics, is to try to get people to understand that this is geared toward prevention of disease and illness by working in the etheric blueprint and changing it, and not waiting till we get a medical diagnosis. Then we get serious. And most of the time, it's too late to start changing your diet when you have cancer all over your body, or a diagnosis of something that is probably not going to respond to some sudden change in your life, although that's, I'm sure, a good thing to do. But you have to start earlier. You have to start in the invisible before the visible. You have to start within the energy before matter. Are you with me on that? See? And so we still have opportunities to do that, because we don't know what's in the future. You don't know what's in your DNA that could go off tomorrow, 6 months, a year, some tendency toward a disease or an illness, psychologically or physically, could just be around the corner in the next week, the next month, the next year, that you could take care of right now if you would get energy work done and change the energetic blueprint. Change cause, you've changed effect at the same time. Even before the effect, you've changed the effect when you change the cause. And that's why we call ourselves spiritual people, folks. That's really one of the great differences of religion and spirituality, is spirituality means we work with spirit before matter. So we still have those opportunities to do that. And that's what he's saying here. It says that we're going to recognize that chakra is the source of power that's going to determine physical, mental, emotional makeup of the individual, and such as they will become the key to well-being. This can only be done in the light of an understanding of the chakras and their relationships to all bodies, dense and subtle. Dense and subtle. Now, the energy, spirit, soul, whatever you choose to call it, the authentic self that you are, started its journey out of the heavens, the ether, the higher places of spirit, and entered into the body just about where a little baby has a soft spot at the crown. That's what that soft spot's about to me. It is the place where the soul and spirit of the incarnation comes in, and its intent is to drive itself all the way through the astral, the emotional, the mental, the etheric, all the way into the driving of cellular replication. That's its goal. Its goal is to get here. I love it when it said the teacher, speaking of Yeshua, the one they call Jesus, said to them, because he had been teaching, the Father's in me, this is in me, the kingdom of God is in me, and then he turns around and he says, touch me. I love that. Touch me. In other words, what's in me has become the outer me. What I am in here, I've become. And now I'm the way you can do it. That's what we call the way shower, right? In unity, a lot of people use the term the way shower. He's the way, and the reason he can do that and show us the way is because he did it. He did it and was successful, and remains a word that we use, a name that we use 2,000 years later. How many people comes through that we forget? But these historic figures, and not just him, but even those who have laid the path towards spirituality in the form of metaphysics and new thought, the Holmes, the Fillmores, Alice Bailey, all of these that we could name, also were the ones that stepped up and became a way for us to be where we are. You wouldn't be here without those folks and what they opened up. Now, here's the question Spirit wants me to give you. Are you going to be the way and the portal for others? Or does the door shut here? Don't slam the door of your consciousness. You are not the it. You are a collective manifestation of the Christ consciousness made manifest on the earth in 2021 for all those that are out there searching. And trust me, they are out there. We're finding that out in Soma Energetics right now with this new outreach that we're doing. I'm getting emails from people that says, I needed to hear what you had to say. I really feel this is going to change everything for us on many levels, not just on tuning forks and sound therapy, but I think this is going to put us out there more in the collective consciousness. And that's good. HeartLight doesn't stop at these four walls on Sunday or Wednesday morning. You got to walk out of here today. And you're probably going to have a chance to be, one, a gardener. Every one of you are going to have a chance when this day's over to be a gardener and to walk through the grounds of someone's consciousness and lay a seed. That's why when the story in Jesus' resurrection, Mary did not even know him, who was the closest to him of everybody, and says to him, thinking she's talking to the gardener, where is he? How quickly we forget who he really is in us and as us. Does that make sense to you? That's why we're not here to worship. See, religion worships Jesus. And they worship him as the door. The thing is, they don't go through the door. And that's why these old pictures like your grandma may have had was Jesus standing at the door knocking. Remember those old religious pictures? They're old. Jesus standing at the door knocking. And if you look at those pictures, what's fascinating is there is no way to open it from his side. It has to be opened from the inside. Isn't that interesting? Somebody knew something that said you got to open the door. He's not going to open it in spite of you. He's going to open it up. As you open it up, he will be there. You opened the door. And now can you open somebody else's door? All right. All that. That's all free, okay? First chakra. We talked about chakras. This is an interesting chakra. It is the Meldahara Chakra in Sanskrit. Most of these do have Sanskrit attachments because most of the teachings of chakra comes from the East. The very thing that most Western Christianity has warned you against is stay out of the East. Eastern religion, Eastern teaching, Eastern thinking is seen as something totally that is an adversary to Western thinking. What they just don't realize is everything they believe is Eastern. That Jesus was Eastern, and everybody in their Bible came from the East. So I think it's important to include Eastern perspective to spirituality. It's very important. So the root chakra, oh my God, sorry. We got to find a better way, Tim, to do this thing. The Meldahara, and that word means root support. Now, see why this is so important? It's your support. It's what supports you as a divine being coming into the density of a human incarnation. Trust me, you're going to need support to make it through this. And I know we get support oftentimes. It can be a family member, it can be our partner, it can be a spiritual community, it can be many things. But really, support has to start in yourself, because every other support's going to change out here. People's going to come and people's going to go. People's going to disappoint you, and you're going to think you really found support out there, but everything out there is so fleeting. And it's in those times that you must come home to the inner support of yourself. The location we talked about is really the perineum, base of the spine, coccygeal plexus. That does include, the perineum includes between the anus and the genitals. That's just the way it is. So you're probably sitting on your first chakra. But as we go to the second chakra, you will see how connected these are. The element of this is earth. Each one has an element. This is an earth element. The function of this chakra is survival and grounding. The inner state of this chakra is stillness, security, stability. The rights of this chakra, even chakra has rights. The right to be here and the right to have. Think about that. How many people is still dealing with feeling good about being here? And you want me to jump up here 5 or 6 chakras and talk about esoterical, mystical stuff when we have no real sense of why and what it means to be here? You've got to have that. It's strong. Its outer manifestations are solids, are the world of matter. The gland, as we've learned in the earlier part of the class, is the adrenals. The adrenals are the gateway between the physical organs and the spiritual coming in. It uses that gland to step down its vibration to become physical. You see the adrenals. And I don't know, but if any of you, if you go to any functional doctor, you're going to find out that we all have issues in the adrenals. Over cortisol, all these kind of things. These are things that most of your medical doctors are not going to look at. But if you go to a good functional doctor, they make tests that are not just some blood tests that are covered by your insurance, but they will test things that really are more visceral. Other parts of the body that's affected by this is going to be your legs, feet, bones, large intestine, and teeth. We have a lot of teeth stuff going on in this community and a lot of eye stuff going on in this community that we need to look at. A lot of legs, feet. I got some of those. Weight problems, hemorrhoids, constipation, sciatica, degenerative arthritis, knee trouble. Another big one here. Knee issues. The color is a deep red. Why red? You can also use black, some do. But I think the red is interesting because of the fact that this whole thing in the Bible starts out with Adam, which means red man. The aleph, dam is red, red earth. And that word in Hebrew is Adamah, Adamas, Adam. Everything dam has to do with earth, red earth, which really translates later into blood. Red blood, red bloodline. The sense is smell. We'll talk about that. There are certain smells. This is where we need to really take seriously looking at aromatherapy. Now we use a lot of us here. On guard, what's the one used to be? doTERRA. So let's go with doTERRA. Some of you may go do living. I don't know what you do, but we all have these little bottles that Rhonda has done workshops here, and I get my stuff through her, and I encourage you to do that. But she can direct you on different smells that can help you really ground well, is through smelling. The Bible says that God is a sweet-smelling savor. It says, oh, taste of the Lord. I mean, all the senses have a counterpart in the spiritual man, woman of us. So smell. The seed sound, and this is called a bija, B-I-G-A, and it's a seed sound, which is lum, L-A-M, lum. And we may do that later. I meant to bring my ohm tuner, and I did not. You got one right there. So we may do that. I can't tell you what we'll do or not do, but we'll do it. The vowel is O. A-E-I-O, O. So that's why we can use the ohm. The ohm is a good one for the vowel sound. The tarot suit is the pinnacles. The planets are Saturn and Earth. The yoga path is yoga, hatha yoga. Now here's one, an herb for incense is cedar. That would be a good one, cedar. Animals are the elephant, ox, and bull. And I wish I had the time to teach this to you maybe later. But the sign in here, the elephant and all that looks totally like what is going on here, all has symbolism in the first chakra. That is amazing. But that's probably for a later time. The metal is lead. So turn your lead into gold. Or get the lead out of it. Get the lead out of it. Yeah. Foods are protein and meats, which are very dense, earthly foods, which sometimes people need. For this food thing, I think we need to be more guided about what we eat when we need it. I don't think we should get under any labels of being keto or diet or Mediterranean diet or being a vegetarian or any of those. I think you're doing yourself a disservice when you start labeling yourself and start putting yourself into some group. No. I think there's times the body says, you're not grounded. Go get a steak today. But get a good organic meat. Or you may need a different thing. So I think if we could learn the rhythm of how to be guided and led in these ways, that we could live a much more productive life. The corresponding verb is I have. And the stones are ruby, garnet, and bloodstone. And that I thought I would share with you a little bit. All right, let's go. The energy content of the first. Now I have gathered information from so many different directions, and these are not new to me. These are what I've been studying for years, sometimes a couple of decades, when I have gathered this idea of chakras. So I'm kind of blending different things, although I have to say I'm the most impressed and the most connected in resonance with Carolyn Mace's work on chakras. So let's take it. First chakra, tribal power. Tribal power. The energy content of the first or tribal chakra is about power. The word tribe is not only a synonym for family, but it's an archetype. And as such, it has its connotations beyond its more conventional definition. Archetypally, the word tribal connotes groups, identity, group force, group willpower, group belief patterns. So I can say we're a tribe. Here at HeartLight, you come and joined with people that you resonate with, and we all resonate together. We wouldn't be here together at all. But here's what I want to add to this. I looked it up this morning. The word tribe, from a theological point of view, of course, would be the study of something like the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 12 tribes. I mean, you find 12 a lot. 12 disciples, 12 this, 12 that, is a powerful within itself. But there was kind of a roll call of the tribes. Judah, Gad, Benjamin, all of these tribes were called up. But what I want to share with you on a spiritual level is out of Hebrews 7 and 13. And I don't have it all here in front of me, but I have enough that I can tell you about it. It says that when there was a change in order, now follow me, there was a change in order. The Old Testament is all a particular order called the order of law. Are you with me? Which was Aaron. Aaron's brother was Moses, and Aaron became the priest over this order, and it was known as the Aaronic order until Yeshua shows up on the planet. And at that moment, it wasn't just a transaction, it was a transition. Or I should say more, it wasn't just a transition, it was a transaction. In other words, there was a negotiation went on based upon looking at the old covenant. How many knows what a covenant is? Can anybody tell me, what is a covenant? One word. Agreement. Agreement. Excellent. A covenant is an agreement. You enter into a covenant in a marriage. You enter into a covenant when you buy a home or anything that you sign. You are entering into an agreement with it, a covenant. So the covenant of the Old Testament is changing 2,000 years ago when Jesus comes in and starts negotiating and saying, you know what? I think I got a better one for you. And that's what it's called in Hebrew. The book of Hebrew, a better covenant. It says that, a better covenant. I want you to note, not the best, but better. I wish the church realized that. They got it better with grace, but they don't have the best. The best is yet to come. And I want you to know, as 2,000 years ago, Jesus was called to make that transition, a transaction. You, corporately and collectively, are being called 2,000 years later to step up and make a new transaction into a whole new order and a whole brand new covenant. I'm so trying to get into you that You're not just coming to church. You're not just coming so you can get a little pat on the back spiritually to make it the next few days. We are here to do the work. To do the work. We're called to the transitional table and the transactional table. I don't know about you, but I took time years ago to look at the better covenant, the church age. And I got something out of it. I got something out of all of them to bring along. But I said, this isn't good enough for me. And I already entered into a new covenant. And that's getting ready to happen all across, I believe, the planet. But here's what it says. That when all the tribes were called, this is Hebrews 7:13, and there was another tribe that gave no attendance at the altar. In other words, there was a tribe that was transcendent of what tribes had meant under the past covenant. No longer were you a tribe by bloodline or by race. You were a tribe by spirit. And you know what it says about this? Oh, I could really get into this stuff. You know what it says about this? That it's a new priesthood, a royal priesthood, a peculiar priesthood. Peculiar. How many times have you been called peculiar by your family members and people? That's a good thing. When that happens, say, thank you. I'm glad you recognized it. Because I'm a part of a tribe that gave no attendance at the altar of an old covenant, but I'm a part of a spiritual tribe that is emerging out of the chaos of that which is breaking down, which is the old covenant. Isn't that great? I love that. There was a tribe when the roll was called, like, who's this bunch? I don't think they're on the roll. Are they Judah? No, I don't think they're Judah. Are they gay? No, I don't think they're Are they been? No, I've been through all 12 of them, and there's this group over here that's really peculiar. That's us. That's me. And that order then becomes the order of Melchizedek. The order of Melchizedek. The order of Melchizedek merely means that you can enter a state of your spiritual evolution in which you have no mother, no father, no physical tribe. Your identity has nothing to do with all the incarnations through physical tribes. You've transcended it. You're more than. It doesn't say you have to get rid of it. It just means you know you're more than. Your bloodline, your DNA, your culture, your race, your gender, all these things that are first chakra stuff, you start transcending out of it as you become this new creation, this new creature in Christ that it's called. I just wanted to share that with you. That is from my heart to yours in the spirit. The first chakra means what grounds us in the time of transaction and transition and breakdown and chaos and crises. We will go through it. We will remain grounded in who we are, the unchangeable in the time of change. The isness. The isness doesn't change. If I'm going through a bad time, I still is. If I'm going through a good time, I still is. Whatever I'm going through, I am. And that's your anchor. Go there. When you feel like everything is falling around you, you don't know what to do, go to center point. The I am. To connect to the energy of the first chakra, focus your attention for a few minutes on something tribal that triggers you emotionally and response. And here's some of the things that are listed. Listening to national anthem. Sometimes when you hear that, do you feel chills? You just feel, because that's your tribe. I just heard recently, I didn't know this, I guess it's called the Negro hymn. Just recently. It was amazing. I loved it. I want to hear it again. But even races have their own national anthems, their own songs that solidifies them into a tribe, into a group of people. Observing a military spectacle. Watching an athlete receive a gold medal at the Olympics. Witnessing the marriage of someone you really care about. Learning that a child has been named after you or something like that. Any of those kind of things that we kind of feel, oh, I felt the chills. We say sometimes, or I felt this, or I felt that. That is because we are feeling ourselves bigger than we are in the mundane part of ourselves. The energy of the first chakra is the connection to our physical body. So it's our connection to the spinal column, rectum, legs, bones, feet, and the immune system. I want to talk about that for just a moment. No one begins life as a conscious individual with conscious willpower. That identity shows up much later as we get older, but when you are first even in utero and born as that helpless little infant, you are totally dependent on the tribe, 100%. Without them, you would not exist as a figure. They did not feed you, change you, bathe you, take care of you, protect you. They are your first foundation that is laid in your new human physical incarnation experience. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you got to realize that this doesn't start the minute you're born out here, but it was already going on in the gestation period, when you were receiving your outer environment vibrationally into when you were being formed in your mother's womb. That's why the Bible says that God said, I knew you while you were being formed in the womb. That identity comes later and develops in stages from childhood through adulthood. So the first chakra carries every experience that is experienced consciously and mostly unconsciously from conception, physical conception, to around 7 years old. Everything that you experienced and felt has been vibrationally deposited in the making of your first chakra. Even the Catholic Church is so brazen to say, give us your children until they're 7 and we will have them for life. Religion knows psychologically how to root us in their tribal identity. And it's true. I still have deep things within me that I learned in the religion that I was formed and raised in. Absolutely, I can go there. And I recognize it. And sometimes I like it. When I do my little dance up here and stuff like that. That's first chakra stuff. But I've built on it. See, I've built on it. But it is imprinted there. Beginning life as a part of the tribe, we become connected to our tribal consciousness and collective willpower by absorbing, now get this, strengths and weaknesses, beliefs and superstitions. I was over here yesterday looking out the window in the office in the front there, and there's the blackest cat I've ever seen. And immediately I heard my mother. My mother was so superstitious about black cats. If she saw a black cat, she knew something bad was going to happen. And I immediately went there. And then I'd shot up to the 6th chakra and said, wait a minute. That's not in my consciousness. That was in her consciousness that I inherited. And in this moment, I choose to change that pattern. And all of a sudden, I thought, that's the most beautiful black cat I've ever seen. I don't even care for cats that much. But this was a really sleek, beautiful black cat that I had never seen. And that's all it was. It was not going to bring me bad luck. So far. See, I'm not there yet. I'm not 100% there. I'm still checking it out. Still a little nervous. That's going to work out. But so far, so good. Through our interactions with family and other groups, we learned the power of sharing a belief with other people. We also learn how painful it can be to be excluded from a group and its energy. We learn from generation to generation this code of behavior guides children of the tribe during their development years, providing a sense of dignity and belonging. If tribal experiences genetically interconnect us, so do tribal attributes or attitudes. Be they sophisticated perceptions such as we're all brothers and sisters, or superstitions such as number 13 is bad luck. All those things is kind of still weaved in there at times. All right. The tribal chakra, first chakra, represents our connection to both positive and negative group experiences. Now here's what I want to get into today. See if I can get through this. Epidemics are a negative group experience to which we can become energetically susceptible. I thought this was very appropriate. And we are susceptible only if our personal first chakra fears and attitudes are similar to those held by the culture's overall first chakra. See, America, the world, but America is having to deal with its first chakra. What was it? Tribal. America was based upon tribalism. Immigrants. Your tribe. Whether you were African American and brought here, or you have ancestors that are from Ireland or England or Germany or somewhere that chose to come here for the better life, people begin to flood in here under the idea that we are all one. No matter if we were poor, uneducated, we were received into America. But because we were the melting pot that didn't melt, the workings of the first chakra has shown up for America. Viral and other epidemics are very much a reflection of both the current social issues of the cultural tribe and the health of the social tribe's immune system. This point is essential to note because each of us is connected through our first chakra attitudes of our culture and of our not only individual but our collective. So I'm going to give you a dramatic example of social tribe's energy capacity to manifest of illness is the polio epidemic. Let's look at this one. In the 1930s and 40s. In 1929 of October, the American economy crashed and the Great Depression began, affecting the entire nation. Now you'll see a pattern here. In describing how the American people felt, journalists and politicians, business executives, and workers, men and women, all described themselves as having been crippled by the economic disaster. America was financially crippled. In the early 1930s, the polio epidemic surfaced after we felt crippled by the finance. It showed up as a virus. Symbolically representing a crippled spirit of the nation as a community. Those who felt most economically crippled, either by actual experience or by fear of it, were energetically the most susceptible to the polio virus. Not everybody got the polio. I'm sure even before the vaccine came out. But before the vaccine, some got it, some didn't. Much like today with this disease that we're dealing with, this virus. Some are getting it, some don't. There's all kinds of different degrees of this virus, how it's affecting people. Because it's meeting them at the degree in which their consciousness is. Where they are is how it meets you. If it meets you at a level of a high enough consciousness, it can't resonate with you and it just passes by. Because the blood is on your doorpost, for you that know Bible. It's called the Passover. And death passed over those that had the blood on the doorposts of Israel. Stay with me. It's good. In the early 1930s, the polio epidemic surfaced, symbolically representing the crippled spirit of a nation. Those who felt it economically were the ones that were the most susceptible to it. Those who felt, I'm trying to get to where I left off. Because children absorbed their tribe's energy, American children were susceptible to the viral disease as to the economic disease or dis-ease. All is one. When an entire tribe becomes affected with fear, that energy extends to its children. The sense of being crippled is so quickly woven into the tribal psyche that American voters even elected a president crippled by the polio virus, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Isn't this interesting? A living symbol of both a physical weakness of an indomitable resilience. It took a physical tribal event and experience of physical strength, World War II, to heal the American tribal spirit. The sense of heroism and tribal unity, supported by the sudden increase in jobs, restored pride and power, honor to teach tribal members. At the end of the war, the American nation had assumed a global leadership role again. In fact, the United States became the leader of the free world because of its developed nuclear weapons, a position that brought enormous pride and power to its culture, tribal chakra. And once again, this recovery was reflected in the language of the tribal spokespeople who described their newly healed culture as economically on its feet again. America is on its feet again. With that shift in consciousness reflecting a healing tribal spirit, the polio virus could be the polio virus could be defeated, and the spirit and attitude of the tribe was ultimately stronger than the virus. Not coincidentally, Jonas Salk discovered the vaccine for the polio in the early 1950s. I just had to read that to you. That just blew me away. So with that as a model, maybe it's time to do some really self-searching about what is happening. And I'm speaking to us as Americans. What are people resonating? And of course it goes in also to the HIV and how that happened. So none of these things are just happening out of nowhere. They're happening as a result of ourselves. And that's why we have to all take the responsibility and stop this name gaming and it's them and because of them, and then there's us and there's them. It is so important that we realize that there is a pattern that is basically going on here. So the first chakra is the place of our most powerful grounding to our earth experience. And when we lose that and we get, you've heard the whole adage that I'm too spiritually minded to be any earthly good. I kind of fit that one a little bit. It's all right. Confession's good for the soul. But all my life, I've been up here. I just never cared that much about learning how to live the earthly life. It just wasn't important to me. And by the grace of the Almighty wisdom, said, okay, I'm going to let you do this, and I'm going to send people in your life that's going to help you. And I've always had people there to help me to do those things that I didn't quite get grounded in the earth. Does that make sense to you? I didn't care. I didn't care about learning the strategy of living a powerful earthly life as a human being. I was too much saying, why? Why? Why am I here? How can this be happening? You know, I looked into the stars. Why? How can this be? I always wanted those kind of answers in my life. And that's where I dedicated my energy and my life, was reading, researching. And I just started talking about it. And people started listening. And a ministry was born from that, of just sharing my own journey. And oftentimes somebody would say, you know what, I resonate with your journey. And something would be built. A group, a church, a center, a ministry would be built for over these 5 decades because of the ones that we have crossed paths together. I hope that makes some sense to you. And I'm not trying to put myself out in an embarrassing way. I'm just being honest with you that I have been somewhat different about being here on this earth and in this birth. I just refuse to be put totally to sleep. Because when they're rocking you, when you're a little baby, culture is going to rock you too. They're going to rock you into a slumber, and they're going to rock you right into, mesmerize you into a belief that there is nothing to you but what your eyes can see, your ears can hear, taste, all your 5 senses. That's all there is. And then the big gap is, after you accept that, then they put heaven way over here after you die. Right. And they don't put anything between. That's where spirituality comes in. It is the connection between our first, second, and third chakra of our religious, social, cultural first experiences up to adulthood. And it is the bridge that we cross over into heaven. Heaven meaning enlightenment, spiritual at one-ment, an awakened state. And I don't want us to forget, we've moved away a little bit from when HeartLight was birthed as standing in the gap. We are a ministry in the gap. And we must not forget that those who come and are drawn to us are people that got lost between leaving their religion and haven't found their enlightenment. That's what we should be filling in with people. And I'm asking you to join me as a collective ministry, not as your guru or just your leader, but I ask that we become connected collectively. And we're all together creating a divine bridge across the troubled waters of mankind. Let's take a moment. Take a deep breath. Exhale. We bring what has been said in this class today and all other classes before our higher self. The higher self that holds that place that we call the teacher, the Holy Spirit, the divine mind. We'll now take what words that have been given and offered today that resonates at this time with each individual and each collectively to awaken that knowledge out of their own being, out of their own soul, until it becomes self-knowledge, not David knowledge, not Carolyn Mace knowledge, or any of the others that we are using to connect us. It must have our own I am signature on it. We have to become the I am that I am. You are the second I am of the I am. You are the imprint, the mirror of the I am, mirroring itself in you and your life. And may the Holy Spirit put together of this teaching something that makes complete sense to you, that you have your own inner aha moment, that you have your own epiphany, that you retrieve your own memory of when you were still in the throne room and around you were all your sages, angels, ascended masters, all of the Christ, the Buddhas, the whatever, all of those who loved and cared enough to prepare you with your life journey through the many incarnations of humanity, because it so loved this humanity, even in the state that it was in of its density, that it gave itself, which is what is meant that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. That's exactly what it means on a metaphysical level, that God still cared so much that I will go into the depths of your own humanity. I'll meet you in your first chakra. I'll meet you in your grounding. I'll meet you in the first moments of your outer birth. I'll meet you in whatever tribe you ended up in, or whatever physical situation you ended up in. I'll meet you there, and we'll work together to climb through the chakras back from where we came from, back to the crown, back above the crown, and be rejoined with our Creator as we were created to be. Holy Spirit, ground us. Help us to see what needs to be done to change some of the old patterns that we're still carrying from that first 7 years, 12 years, an adult of these 3 major chakras. Change our vibratory frequency beyond that of a virus or any virus, that it does not and cannot resonate with us. But put your name is love, in the forehead of our consciousness until it says, I shall pass over you. We have things to do. We don't have time for viruses. We don't have time for illnesses. We have things to do. We're just now feeling the calling. And the ego is screaming at us, but you're 70 years old, you're 80 years old, you're 60 years old. You should be slowing down. You should be retiring. And yet the Spirit is saying, this is your time. It took the 70 years. It took the 80 years to get you here. Be glad and rejoice of how far you've come along. You look at your own grandchildren, you look at the other people, and you realize where you are. When you see the naivete, that to them going in means going into their phone, going into the computer. But you know that you went within before there was that, and there you found your own kingdom, your own purpose, your own scroll of life. We have not been passed by. We have not passed by. Do not give power to age. Do not give power to old human DNA that you've inherited. Sing the praises of love of a new life in Christ. Thank you, God, for our time together today and for those who have joined us and are still with us. And we're glad for those who continue to support this class to make it possible. And again, thank you for you that have come out. Thank you for that came out for the exercise today. I still think it's very important, and all of you should be coming. But that's what I think. What you think is another. Very subtle, don't you think? Well, my time is really getting, I gotta just say it. But yes, I just care about you. I just want to make sure that you are doing something on your own. If you do not want to come with your community and do something like exercise and stretching, then please, at home, take some time. Make sure that you keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Do some stretching. There's many things that you can do. Make it a priority, all of us, to our lives. All right, thank you so much for coming and being in the class today. Thank you. It's good to see Deborah with us from Florida. Always glad for that. And we're going to enjoy her time with us for the next few days. All right, bless you as always. My sincere prayer. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. Be back Sunday morning at the 11:15 celebration service. Thank you so much.
Thank you.